Hey guys, welcome to this new tutorial on Unity. Okay, so in this one I'm gonna continue with the project we started 2 videos ago. So if you're new to this series, what we've done so far is have a system that basically creates geometry, 3 kinds of geometry depending on which one of these kind of 3 buttons that we like. So you could create a plane, a sphere, or a cube, right? And at the same time we're kind of recording the data. If you press P, you could just go back to one of our instances and you see that we have all that data saved. What I want to show here in this video now is that this idea of the inventory doesn't necessarily apply only to geometry, but perhaps we could use it for something like behaviors, right? So we're going to have to do several changes for this one. We're going to introduce some raycasting to explore the level. So let's get into it. So one thing that I'm going to do here is just I'm going to create a first-person controller, just because I want to be able to raycast and move around the scene, right? And before we had the main camera, which had the pause menu from the serializer. So I'm gonna just drag that pause menu to the new main camera that is inside the first person controller and get rid of this camera, right? Oops, there we go. Yeah. So let's see if this is still working. So you can see that we still have, now we have like a first person controller idea, and then we can basically create objects and I could just basically interact with those. So I'm going to create a raycasting system in which I'm going to detect this object that I'm creating, and basically by clicking on them I'm going to create a series of buttons, like maybe in this side now, to create some behavior over this cube, right? So one of the behaviors could be, let's say, make it move, maybe destroy it or something like that. So let's get to it. So we have this kind of first-person controller now. So okay, what do we need? We need first to start doing our, so these are, we could add this to a function if we want, right? So let's just be a bit more organized. So let's do function. Create geo, right? So we could just cut this stuff and put it in our function, right? So in that way we have a cleaner place to play. Obviously we have to call that. Let's make sure that that is kind of working still. Yeah, it seems like it. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we could create right away a new function. So function Raycast trigger. So what we want to do here is a variable that is going to be the hit, that is from the type Raycast hit. Oh, I forgot how to spell that. We're probably gonna get the error. We can just search for that quickly. Right, so camel case on the H. There we go. So we have a hit and we need a variable called ray. So the ray is from the type ray, and this one we want to specify, right? So what we want to do is just, we need to use the camera. For the most part you could do camera dot main dot screen point to ray. I'm not sure if I spelled that properly. Again, the best practice is to look for it here, screen point to Ray. So yeah, there we go. Screen point to Ray. And basically, if we don't want to make, like, this is actually detecting the main camera, but we could make the camera be a variable for us. So if we just kind of comment out this for a second, we could just say, well, variable cam, that is from the type camera, right? Yeah. Right. So if we go into our game manager, we will have the camera here, right? And we can actually connect that camera, the camera from the game object, from the first person controller, right? So if you rename your camera and your camera is not the main camera, that's the best way of just like a quick way of connecting that, so you don't have a missing a null pointer exception to the camera. So in this case now, instead of saying camera main, we could say cam, right? Because that's our camera. And screen point to Ray, we're going to create a ray that it's going from input dot mouse position. Let's check that. Right, so there we go, input dot mouse position, and that should be fine. So we have array. So we could say if physics dot Raycast, and we're gonna use our functions here. So ray, comma heat, comma 100, and we could print something. Yes. Right. So just check, and we're gonna call that again somewhere here, right? So if we hit something, we return yes. Errors. Oh, we're missing parentheses here. That's it. Should be, hopefully. I think that's it. So far, yeah, there we go. We get the yes, like the print. Yes, so we want to mix this idea. We don't want to raycast all the time, right? So let's say that we get the mouse clicking, right? So if we click on the mouse, we raycast and we detect. So let's say if input dot get mouse button down, and I put button 0 being left mouse, and we put an if statement around this stuff, right? Now it's gonna only happen when I click, right? And one fun way of just checking, we could say hit dot transform dot game object, and that's the object that we're hitting, right? We could say render dot material dot color equals color 1,0. And basically we would be switching the color of the object that we are clicking, right? So if we create a bunch of cubes, this is showing me that the script is working, right? So one easy behavior that we could, so that's a way of quickly checking that it's working. But one easy way of easy behavior would be destroy, right? Destroy seems to be one of the so what do we want to destroy? It's hit dot transform dot game object. Right, so if we destroy that guy, and we don't want to just destroy the ground, right? So let's make sure that we create some cubes first. There we go. It works. Obviously here, if I kill the ground, we're just falling. So that's fine. We could put this Raycast could be very useful to have some sort of tag system, right? Actually, we could add that very quickly. So let's say we want to just make our prefab, my cube. I could add a tag, and I could say tags here, and add one that is cube, one that is sphere, and one that is plane. I could just make one that it's a ground, right? So I could make it the other way around. Instead of saying check for cube to do something, check that you're not ground, and in order not to kill the ground. But in this case, cube, it's fine, because we might want to just kind of have different behaviors based on the kind of object. So this is an easy way of saying you are the cube, you have a tag called cube. You're the plane, you have a tag plane, and the sphere has a tag of sphere, right? So those tags, now we can check for those. So we could say if heat dot transform dot tag equals cube. I think I spell it like this. Right, so in this way we can only kill cubes, right? Now let's make sure that that's working. So that's working fine. You see that we can kill cubes, but we cannot kill the ground. Right, so let's make what we mentioned before. So let's say destroy, it's going to be one of the behaviors, but it's going to be one of three, right? So I'm going to do a similar thing of what I did here with the object to create, and I'm going to call this one behavior to call. Right, and I'm going to start with none. So I'm going to create 3 more buttons. And let's put these buttons, this time we were putting them in X at about 60. So this is going to be behavior underscore A, behavior underscore B, and behavior underscore C. We could give them more interesting names really, but just to make the case for this behavior. So behavior to call, it's going to be the variable we're going to be changing, right? So behavior to call, it's going to be in this case destroy. That's behavior number 1. Move, it's going to be the second one, and rotate. Right, so this is going to be our 3 behaviors, right? And if we want to see this as well, we've done before a label, right? So maybe we do another one, and we can do it here. We could say the label is going to be in 60, and maybe this is going to be in 400, right? So in this case, the label, we're going to just print the behavior to call. So we have the label with the first string, that is the object to create, and another string that is the behavior that we're calling with the second set of buttons. And that's going to be being triggered by this second set of buttons here, right? So you can make a comment, behaviors. this is going to be types of geometry. Right, so let's see if that's working for now. These are too tied to each other. Let's move them a little bit. But you can see that destroy, move, or rotate, it's being kind of, and then this one has the plane, the sphere, or the cube. That's good. So these guys need to be moved a little bit to the right. There we go. So the only thing that we're missing here is just that now when we're raycasting. So first we're checking if this guy is the cube. That's perfect. And then we could say, well, if I'm in the behavior 1, if behavior to call equals, what is the name that we get? Oh, b underscore a, right? So that's the name what we gave to that behavior. I mean, we could use anything really. Oh no, sorry, we have to just check this one. That's the name of the button. So the behavior could be either destroy, move, or rotate, right? So that's good. So we are destroying it, right? And I think I'm missing a parenthesis here, right? That's more like it. So if the behavior is destroy, we do something. If the behavior is move, we do something else. We haven't defined that yet. And if the behavior is rotate, right, we're gonna do something else. So let's check first that this is not with any error. And then there we go. So if I create some cubes, behavior 1 destroy works, right? And then I could switch to behavior move, and I could just do something like, what do we do with move? We could say something like, well, hit dot transform dot position dot x plus equals I don't know, 5 or 2, right? Whatever. So we're just moving it, like displacing it a little bit. And we could do the same thing to hit dot transform dot rotate. And here we have to put the Euler angle. So we could say maybe rotating 0, 0, 45, right? So let's see if that would work. So I'm going to use create a few cubes. I'm moving around the screen, and I'm clicking on this guy. And because I'm in behavior move, that is my behavior move now. So you can see how they're kind of colliding with each other. So that's working pretty well. And then the third one is rotate, maybe let's see. And it's working as well. So you see that this kind of inventory-like button here is just determining a behavior that I'm triggering with the Raycast, while this inventory here is determining the kind of geometry that I'm creating by pressing C, right? So we're gonna look in the next tutorials how to not just literally activate a behavior from here, like by moving, but let's say sending a message into a script that it's inside the prefab that would activate a behavior that would be over time. Let's say move so much, let's say 10 seconds, start moving, or search for something. So you can basically tell this guy become a bit intelligent and move around and things like that. So yeah, you could start interacting with these guys in a much more interesting way. So I'm going to leave this one here, and we're going to continue from this project, so make sure to follow along in the first series. Okay, see you guys soon.